The other thing I had a question about is, would you prefer that people leave their screens on so you can see them or have them off? Though I will ask everyone to mute themselves so that we can only hear our speaker.
I always like to see faces when I'm speaking, but of course, if you need to turn your screen off or the connection isn't stable enough, then you can turn your screen off. But I do like to see people's faces when I'm talking.
All right, the floor is yours.
All right, let me share my screen first and get my PowerPoint going. There we go. Okay, hi everyone. I am very happy to be here today. It's lovely to see I'm seeing some familiar faces, and I know it kind of feels like I'm partly returning to Minnesota, even though I'm right here in my lovely dormitory room. That's why you can see my coffee maker and my bed in the same frame. I'm living in a dormitory for this year. Talk more about it in a moment. I have quite many things for you today. I hope we don't run out of time, but I'm not in a hurry, and we'll see where we get today. Yeah. So a little bit about myself for those of you who don't know me. Like Kristiina already said, I did spend last academic year, so not this year, but the year before it, I actually returned to Finland almost exactly 1 year ago. I did spend substituting for the wonderful Daniel Haataja at the University of Minnesota Finnish program. So Minnesota is a familiar place for me. Yes, well, like I said, my name is Kristiina Jomppanen. I am Finnish and I am Sámi. And I am a Finnish and German language teacher. But this academic year, I have returned to studying, and I've been studying North Sámi language and culture at the Sámi Education Institute in Anár, in Inari, in northern parts of Finland. I grew up in Vantaa in southern Finland, so not here in the Sámi region, but I have many relatives living here, and my grandparents used to live quite close by. Here I have a couple maps to show you where Inari is, if all of you aren't familiar. Inari, it's a little bit confusing. It's both name of a municipality, a larger region, which is there in the map marked by red. It's by area the largest municipality in Finland. The map is a little bit weird. The other areas aren't just municipalities. It looks like there are bigger ones, but it's not very accurate that way. But Inari has a lot of area. It's very big. Not as many people live there, but it's big by area. But Inari is also one village in the municipality in the area of Inari, which you can see in the other map there by Inarijärvi. Lake Inari is a little village called Inari, and that's where I am living and studying this year. And like I said, I'm living in a school dormitory. Schools in these areas quite often have dormitories because people come from far, so that students can live closer to the school. My father is from Menesjärvi. Here you can see it a little bit to the south from Inari on the map, and that's quite close by as well. The biggest center of the municipality of Inari is Ibalo. That's the biggest village, the biggest town, and there is the airport as well. Maybe some of you have visited this area, but I thought it would be nice to show the map so you know approximately where we are geographically today. Well, a little bit about my presentation today. I called it a year in Sápmi. That's what I've been doing for the past year, being here in Sápmi. I will first tell you some basic information about the Sámi people and more specifically about the Sámi people in Finland. maybe you already know all these things and it's very familiar to you, but I thought these might be new things to some of you. So I wanted to start with some basics, numbers, and so on. I will introduce you to some important symbols of the Sámi. Some things, again, might be all very familiar to you, but I thought that would be fun as well. I'll talk a little bit more about Sami languages in Finland and a teeny tiny bit about language revitalization. Not getting too deep into that, but a little bit, because that's also what I've been doing this year, revitalizing the language in my family, where the speaking of North Sámi has stopped. So I am learning my family's language again. And then, of course, I will talk about my personal experiences about studying North Sámi and how my year here has been, what kind of courses we've done, and so on. And of course, at the end, I do have time for questions. And like I said, I'm not in a hurry. Even if we run a little bit over time, I can stay and will be glad to answer your questions, or at least try to answer your questions. I don't mind if you ask questions in between the presentation. You may, I just might not see you waving if I'm concentrating on speaking, but you can interrupt me or write your questions down and then ask at the end. Either way is fine by me. So I hope this sounds good. It's at least many things. I hope we have time to go over everything. If it looks like we're short in time, I might skip over a couple of parts, but then I can share the PowerPoint presentation with you maybe later on, so you can go and check the things we skipped over. All right. So a couple of things about terminology, or maybe words would be better, that I thought I might want to maybe explain before we get started. So some certain words I'll be using and some words that I will not be using. Some words that I will not be using are the words lap or lappalainen. Although these quite long were the terms that you would talk about Sámi people, these days they're no longer considered accepted. Some people do find them very hurtful, and they are used in negative context, but you still quite often do see them in older books or word books, so you might be familiar with these words, but nowadays, oh, and not to confuse with lappilainen, which is a person who lives in Lappi, in Lapland. So those are the Finnish words. But these days, Sámi people do prefer to be called Sámi, saamelainen in Finnish, and Sápmi in North Sámi, since the word lap or lappalainen was never a word used by the Sámi people themselves. It was also always the outsiders who spoke or used those words. And Sámi or Sámi is a word that really you can find in all different Sámi languages to describe the language and the people. The spelling might be a little different across the different languages, but that's the word that is preferred to use and the correct word. Another thing that Lapland does not equal Sápmi. Sápmi, the land of Sámi, stretches across at some parts wider area than Lappi or Lapland, and at some points it doesn't cover all the area of Lappi or Lapland. So quite often when I talk about places that are within Sápmi, the Sámi homeland, the land of the Sámi, I talk about Sápmi, and that is also in that sense easy, because you don't need to talk about Swedish Lapland or Finnish Lapland or Norwegian Lapland. We talk about Sápmi, which covers all of those areas. I will show you a map in just a bit, so you see the whole area. Then I will be talking about something called the Sámi homeland area in Finland, and this means, in the Finnish context, the municipalities of Utsjoki, Inari, Enontekiö, and northern parts of Sodankylä. So these areas are the Sámi homeland area in Finland. So not the whole Lapland, for example. Rovaniemi, which is considered sort of the capital, the biggest city of Lapland, is not within these areas. And then one thing, a very important thing to me, I will talk about duodji, which is traditional Sámi handicrafts. So that is a word I will be using as well. That's a North Sámi word. And quite often now that I use Sámi words, I will be using North Sámi words. Okay, so Sámi people are really one nation that lives across 4 states or 4 countries. And Sámi are the only indigenous or only officially recognized indigenous people living within the European Union. And here you can see Sápmi, which stretches over northern parts of Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Russia. Maybe in this map it goes a little bit more south in Finland than in some other maps, but since it's not a country per se, there aren't really strict borders where it starts and ends. There are altogether approximately 75 to 100,000 Sámi people altogether, depending a little bit on counting. It's a little bit difficult to count. And approximately 10,000 Sámi people are living in Finland. The majority of Sámis live in Norway, quite a big portion also, a little bit more than Finland in Sweden. And then in Russia, there's also a small number of Sámi, but it's especially in Russia, it's difficult to get exact numbers. Here is a map of the Sámi homeland area in Finland. And like you see, it doesn't go as south as in the previous map, but here you see the municipalities of Utsjoki, Inari, Sodankylä, and Enontekiö. And in the green is the Sámi homeland area. And the blue is Koltta-alue, which is the Skolt Sámi area, where Skolt Sámis have some specific rights to land and waters and so on. But here you can see the Sámi homeland area, which I will be talking about as well. A little bit about Sámi languages. Quite often you might hear talk about Sámi language, but actually it's more or less 9 to 10 different languages. Depends a little bit on how you count, since some Sámi languages really have only a couple speakers left, and they're really about to become extinct or have already become extinct. And here you see a map approximately of the areas where the speakers live or traditionally have lived. North Sámi is the biggest Sámi language in North Sámi Talvisamekielä, and it has approximately 20 to 25,000 speakers, and 2,000 of those live within the Finnish borders. And it's also the map, you can see that it's the green area. It's the biggest area. It's spoken within Finland, within the borders of Finland, Norway, as well as Sweden. Then we have Inari Sámi, in Inari Sámi Anár, which is only spoken within Finnish borders in the Inari region around the Inari Lake, and it has approximately 450 speakers today. And then we have Skolt Sámi, Samchöl, which has a little less speakers, about 300 living in Finland, some in Norway, and some also on the Russian side. But like you see, there are a couple more Sámi languages on the list: Southern Sámi, Uume Sámi, Pite Sámi, Luule Sámi, Akkala, Kildin, and Per Sámi. And these are really their own languages, not dialects. The languages have dialects within them, but these are different separate languages. Some of them speakers can understand each other with a little bit of effort. But a good rule of thumb is the further you go geographically, less likely it is that the speakers can really understand each other. A speaker of South Sámi and North Sámi, for example, would probably have quite quite big difficulties understanding each other. But for example, North Sámi and Inari Sámi speakers can quite often understand each other pretty well and are aware of those little things that might be quite different. So there is that. A little bit more about the Sámi in Finland. I already told you a couple of things, but here are a couple more. Like I already said, in Finland there are 3 Sami languages and 3 Sami groups: the Inari, Skolt, and North Sámi. And we share certain things, but all the groups have also specific cultural things besides just a different language. So the cultures also are a little bit different in some aspects. And like I said, approximately 10,000 Sami people living within Finland. Counting is a little bit difficult because there aren't, it can be counted depending on first language, which you can register, but you can only register one first language. So if you're bilingual, trilingual, it's quite likely that you register a majority language being Finnish. And yeah, counting isn't always very accurate. Again, the Sami homeland area is here. Now I also put the North Sámi names for the places, or Utsjoki, that I underlined also because it's the only municipality and area in Finland where Sami live as a majority. Still, in Inari, Enontekiö, and Sodankylä, Sami are a minority. Inari is the only 4-language municipality in Finland. In Inari, the official languages are all the 3 Sami languages spoken in Finland, as well as Finnish. In Utsjoki, Enontekiö, and Sodankylä, North Sámi is the other official language alongside with Finnish. But one thing that I didn't mention before is that actually in Finland, 60% of the Sami people live outside of the traditional Sami homeland area, in cities, anywhere really outside of the homeland area. At some point, people used to say that Oulu is the biggest Sami village in Finland because it had the most Sami people living there, but quite many also in Helsinki, Turku, Tampere, in the bigger cities. So not only in the Sami homeland area. Some traditional Sami livelihoods are reindeer herding, fishing, hunting, gathering as well, duodji, the traditional Sami handicrafts, as well as, of course, modern ways of practicing these. And one thing that I do like to point out that doesn't sometimes become very clear from tourist brochures is that Sami people do live a very modern way of life, and their everyday life doesn't look very different from Finnish people, for example. Yeah. And reindeer herding is very commonly and stereotypically combined with Sami people, and many Sami are reindeer herders or do have reindeer, but not all Sami, and not all Sami ever had reindeer. There are also Sami who have really nothing to do with reindeer herding, but to the outside it looks like the biggest and major livelihood. It's also quite common for Sami people to do some of these livelihoods as a part-time thing and have a day job somewhere else, but still have a couple reindeer or do a lot of fishing, do duodji in their free time. So not that many people live only of these things nowadays anymore. And Sami have a constitutional right to practice and develop their own culture and language in Finland that is stated in the constitution, Started there in 1995. Okay. And Finland, as well as Norway and Sweden, do have their Sámi parliament that decides over certain things and gives official opinions, has a budget to allocate towards language and culture.
I'm so sorry. I'm going to have to interrupt really quick here. I don't know why,
yes,
but it's saying that we only have 1 minute left, despite the fact that we have a pro plan. And I've actually been trying to deal with the technical side and tried rebooting, and it still says we have 1 minute left. So if we do get kicked off in 1 minute, please just use the same link and jump right back on, everyone. I am so sorry. I have no idea why.
And that should start.
Huh? So
no worries, and that should, if it's the 40-minute, that should start the new 40-minute window. So we'll see what happens in 1 minute if everything goes blank.
I have no idea why it's doing this. It's never done it before. Naturally, because it's a special one with someone from Finland, it's going to be troublesome. So I literally have been typing.
I would suggest if it happens, if it happens, I suggest everybody just log right back into the same one again. I've been able to do that in other situations.
Yep, that's how
it should work. Yes.
It just shouldn't have happened at all, since we paid a bunch of money for it not to happen. Yet here we are.